Today is quite exciting. We'll delve deep into the tech world. But before we get there, this is the For All Women and Girls podcast by Ngaf. It's a podcast where women not only share their work, but how they're driving change within the community. In this podcast series, we are trying to establish the whole of society approach where men own their power to uplift and women are empowered to rise. Getting into today, we have a special guest who has, this is for all the tech girls, for all the girls in science. We have one of us who will share with us her work, and I would like her to introduce herself.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vidiana.
Yes.
It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be in the offices of Ngaf, just to come and share more about women and girls, because, that's somewhere that touches a very deep part in my heart.
Yes.
And yes, I'm truly honored. My name is Engineer Maureen Mwaniki, and I'm actually an engineer, studied in University of Nairobi, and now currently working as a director public affairs at Huawei Technologies, but I've had experience of delivering projects for the same organization. So thank you.
Fantastic. Talk to us about your journey, especially within the tech field. Someone who has focused within the tech field, you find a lot of young people, like for instance, would do a technology or an engineering field, but then you'd find yourself in another field. But you have stayed the course and you're within the technology field. Can you take us through that? And you were actually a top 35 under 35 awardee. So tell us about that and your excellence and what you have done. What would you tell a young girl in tech?
Yes. So thanks a lot. I mean, I love sharing my journey because it's not a straight path that everyone experiences. By the time you are young and you say, I want to be an engineer, I want to be this. Funny thing, I actually wanted to be a pilot. And by the time I completed my studies, when I completed KCSE, I realized one thing I loved was mathematics and physics. So I figured whatever it is that I'll do has to have the two of them. And so my first choice was actually I wanted to be a pilot. But unfortunately, due to certain funds that were needed, I could not do that. So, but my second best choice was engineering. So I joined now the University of Nairobi, to do electrical and electronic engineering. And interestingly, we were very few in our class.
How many were you?
We were about when we started off, we were about 40 out of over 200 people.
We were only 10 out of over 100. So over 200.
Yes.
We were 10 girls out of over 200 girls.
So now we came down. By the time we were graduating, we were about 10 girls. Yeah. So, over the years, you realize people start seeing the challenges around the space. There were not so many mentors, so many people to support you in terms of being that space. But then you find it's mostly the men who end up supporting you and
Precisely.
working together and uplifting you. So they're like, our sister, we're not leaving you behind. We have to graduate together. And I think over that, it got to expose me and got to realize that we're really struggling when we're in the university. And so by the time I joined Huawei Technologies, or I can say engineering space, which was the telecom space, was that even after I joined, we were very few ladies too. And I thought to myself, why is it that we are not uplifting each other as we move into this spaces? So because I joined as an engineer in Huawei Technologies, and over time, we still could find, as I grew in leadership and management, we still were not as many as, right now. But then, why were we not as many? So I thought of starting a program known as Women in Technology Huawei, together with one of my former colleagues. So through that, now we were able to go into high schools, into universities to try and support more and more girls and mentor them in different programs. And we thought that now we needed more sustainable programs that, they go not only mentorship, but also they can touch base with the reality of our programs within the organization. So say, we call them DigiTrack. We have a track that moves around different areas, even in the schools. We also have digital inclusion in the schools, where we connect schools, and so some of those kind of programs, and then partnering with some of big organizations that also do the same thing. And then now we provide trainings like AI coding, and they do some competitions, which then benefits the communities. Yeah. So that has been what in a nutshell, what we've been doing.
Oh, that is amazing. Now, just looking at the processes that you've been doing, and especially now as we come back to women, women and girls, one of the key declarations around the women's space was actually the Beijing declarations, and that followed the Nairobi forward-looking strategies. But within those Beijing Plus 30, this year we are celebrating 30 years of those declarations. Yes. However, we also see that there are some areas that we are not moving as fast. And just bringing the conversations of women uplifting each other, women in tech, just beginning those spaces, looking at one of the critical action areas of Beijing. One of them is digital revolution, and you're in that particular space. How do you see us really leveraging digital revolution for accelerating the involvement of women and girls, not only in tech space, but in all spaces?
Okay, so that's a very interesting question, because it's something that over the years, if you notice, people have been trying to look for ways in which they can be able to transform this particular space, especially now that digital inclusion is becoming a big thing, not only even just for women, but generally globally, because we are now facing a revolution of the next big thing. Now we're talking about artificial intelligence, we're talking about 5G, we're talking about robotics, we're talking about, so name it. And that means that we need to be able to appreciate that some of these spaces are very key to everyone, and everyone being included in it. But what do we need to start with? There's a lot that we need to ensure that people understand. Are people educated, that they understand what the digital space is about? So what we are facing is that very many people are moving in it, including the elderly. So they're moving into it, they just know this is digital. But do they understand what digital transformation is about? So I think for us, as even the organization, and even including myself and many others, we're trying to see how can we be able to do some trainings, which is very important, because there's a lot of infrastructure that's being laid out, because you require, for digital transformation, you require infrastructure. And through that, who are the people who run this infrastructure? The people who are skilled within that space. And if they need to be skilled, they need to be trained. So that's where the teaching comes in, and it brings in an ecosystem around that. So as we move around all those trainings, now we need to be able to say, who are the leaders that will take forward this kind of thing? And this is why we need to have now more and more ladies who are coming in to say, you know what, I'm actually an expert in this space, and this is what I do best. Because I've seen a lot of the things that are different from the older times of our older generations. Them, they had to sit in a class and read and grasp. But these days, as Maureen, I can just go online and I do a couple of courses, and I keep upskilling based on whatever is coming up. So I think for us, it needs to look at that ecosystem in terms of teaching, the skilling and the infrastructure as being key. Then now frontiering women to be in that space. But most of all, it's also bringing in policies that will support this gender equality space. And it's not just about gender equality in favoring people, but it is about what do you bring on the table in terms of bringing support to improve the community. Because as we move forward, how are we moving forward? Who is going to handhold the other to move forward? And I believe a lot of women right now, from the space that I've been, and also as I lead very many women, they're really getting empowered to even say bringing up certifications, also working online remotely for other organizations, big organizations across the world. And they are the ones who are actually standing forefront remotely to lead organizations remotely. So I think that is what the policy is driving right now, that we also need to bring in that gender equality, gender support, that we need to, even in the board, do we have women who can also stand in, because we also bring in a different perspective when it comes to certain changes. And then also bring in the work-life balance. We need to accept how culture is like. So yes, in as much as the women carry a huge load of the family, we also need to be supportive when it comes to the male counterparts, to support that we also have certain roles that we can be able to play equally. And last but not least is also the cultural effect of, as we move towards the rural areas, within different communities, we have different cultures. Can we be able to still show women that as you move forward to lead, can you be able to also give support in digital inclusion within your communities, so that then they can also be empowered to empower more people in the community?
Fantastic. And just looking at your current role, which is government relations, and just tagging it into policy, what are the critical policy areas that you have actually been at the forefront of pushing, especially to ensure gender equality, to ensure women in those particular spaces, be it within the policies in country and even the policies within the headquarter countries where your institution is headquartered, which is in China? How have you been at the forefront of ensuring that policies that matter for digital inclusion or digital revolution are actually inclusive of women and girls, but also the whole of society?
Okay, so that's a great and interesting question. So you'll find that we've noticed as we move on, because as an organization that deals mostly with the infrastructure, we've noticed that even as we move the infrastructure, we require people to come in and participate within whatever it is that you're bringing. So some key areas is that we've noticed the more we're doing a lot of digital inclusion, we're facing a lot of cybersecurity issues. Cybersecurity meaning that people are getting more exposed online. Even the trainings that we do, they're getting online. They can be able now to have exposure on e-commerce, things like even online. Just if they need to communicate something about their products, they'll be on these social media spaces. So what are we trying to do? We are trying to also showcase that we need safer ways for you to be online. So so through that, we've been able, if you've seen, I think there's a cybersecurity crimes act that has been in the forefront. So as private sector, we can only give our suggestions because you see, at the end of the day, we can only inform government based on whatever it is that is there, and it is now what they would implement, because they get a lot of input from different private and also government institutions. So for us, what we do is that we would give our input and say, out of global experience and also what we have experienced locally, this is what we think needs to be in place for you to be able to run this. So if we're talking about being safer online, how do we need to be safer online? What do people need to access? When someone is accessing something, do they need to just double click on anything? Another thing is that also there's artificial intelligence. You've been seeing now there's that act that is sort of coming in play around AI. So what are the things that will inform that? So for us as an organization, you'll see we'll focus, yes, on what are the things that will be very safe. We may not really necessarily speak about the gender on that, because as an organization we cover globally around that. But we would be able now to front through now Women in Technology, Huawei, that we have this kind of things. We inform during our trainings that we have been able to give our suggestions during this thing that is about to be gazetted or is being gazetted, that will support you as a lady who will be online. So I think that is what we need to be able to inform, because what we've realized is that now the digital inclusion is hitting everyone, be it male or female. Being on social media, it will not tell you, are you a male or a female or others, right? It will just be able to identify. So if you're facing cyberbullying, you will be able to notice that you as a man, you as a woman is going to be targeted. Yes, you're facing a high risk of now women being exposed more. So for us, we try to empower them more of being safer online. And then we participate strongly in spaces that now have digital inclusion, like now in partnership with one of the regulators, we do some competitions, and we also now are able to give them a task, or give the ladies a task, that you need to come up with solutions that are in the community that can save people and be safer online. So they come up with interesting solutions, and you realize, by the way,
That
you're in
there's like a
traveling
whole
space.
different mindset.
Yeah.
And
So that helps us to bring forth some of the ideas that we can give as policymakers are tabling this in Parliament.
And just delving a little bit much deeper into safe environments and really looking at what is happening. And one of the critical 6+1 action agendas is actually ending violence. And the online space, the digital space, has become the space where a lot of violence is being perpetuated.
Correct.
And a lot of it is the space that really pushes people to the brink.
Yeah.
Where we've seen even young people here in Kenya have committed suicide because of bullying online and all that. Can you speak to the aspect of ending violence online, or just even just beyond just that creation of a safer environment? What can we do more, especially within the digital space, to end violence? And for the women, it's actually worse. The kind of rhetoric, or the kind of battering you see, especially women receiving online, is really depressing. And how can we counter that, in your opinion?
So I think, in my opinion, I think we need to first empower more people around being on digital space safely. And mental wellness is becoming one key factor, not only just being online safely, but what do you take in while you're online? If you notice a lot of the things, and this is not the organizational comment, this is my view.
No, yes.
Yeah.
We actually want Maureen here. We want the woman, the girl in this room.
Yes.
So your views are very critical, especially to speak to the girl, to speak to the woman, and the men as well.
Yeah.
We want Maureen here. Yes.
Yeah. So from what I'm saying is that we really need to empower and make the young women coming up to be very confident and comfortable with what they have. Rome was not built in a day.
Yes.
So the slow steps of transforming yourself helps you to transform your mind.
Yes.
And I think what is happening is that there's a huge rush of transformation that you need to be at the top.
Yes.
Before you go through the 4 small obstacles. So I think what that needs to be done is that we need to be able to empower, have more community, and I love that Ngaf has community players all around in all the counties, is that we need to keep telling them that out of this, financial literacy, mental wellness, all that being packaged, social skills, presenting yourself, you're able to find ways in which you can still be able to develop yourself as you move into higher spaces. Not only do you need to be a leader who is seen, you can also be in a leader remotely, as I mentioned, that you can lead an organization remotely. You can even be able to try and front something that is very unique in your space and put it online and front it. So what I'm saying is that we need to be able to empower the young ladies so that then they can, one, be very, very comfortable, because right now they're more self-aware about what is happening around them, of course, with the exposure, but also see more positive talk, especially from influencers who are in that space. And I'm liking some influencers in the spaces. They're trying to talk about more of mental wellness, that you need to grow yourself. You need to look at this so that people are able to understand that in terms of the GBV that is coming up, we need to be able to support one another. And the moment you empower a lady, it doesn't matter whatever it is. The more she's financially empowered, the more we have policies that are supporting financial literacy in these spaces. Now we have different spaces about how you can have even businesses online. You can be able to sell things online, and the government supporting those kind of online platforms. I think for me, that is how we will slowly come to end some of these things. And with digital inclusion, that small step that we are talking about, as we talk about more women and girls here, they need to be able, it needs to reach out to them more and more, and we can be able to see. And then they see also like young CEOs, like our CEO here.
Yes.
Yeah, when they see young leaders supporting programs that are more for women, and they can understand that this has been a journey of slow success, and finally it's there. That I think will be a good thing. And one of the things is that we need to also pick out the people who have had success stories. Like from like they've come out. Actually, people who have gone to GBV session, and they've come out successful, and they come back and tell their story, how they were able to come out. They're supported by the community. They're supported by NGAF. And even they get certain vouchers to even go out there and preach some of these cases. You'll see how it really transforms people. Yeah.
Now, I preempted and jumped in. I actually thought you said people who are in leadership spaces, and I preempted and I said like me, meaning like you.
Yes.
So just delving into your leadership journey. And for that young girl or for that woman who is looking at you and saying, I want to be director of public affairs somewhere in a tech institution and drive that change. Can you reveal to us how you have reached that particular space and how you're influencing that leadership space?
So interestingly, was actually I became a leader. Well, I entered management when I was very young. Actually, I think I was 28. 27, 28. Yeah, I was very young.
Yes.
And but then it looked young.
Yes.
Right now, I'm seeing people who are becoming CEOs from as young as, I don't know, 22, 23, And what I normally say is that it's that journey of growing into being like you have to be willing to be exposed and fail so many times, because out of those failures is where your opportunity comes out. You're able to learn, you're able to rethink, you're able to do certain things. Because for me, I normally tell people, you'll see that nice part of top 40 under 40.
Yes.
You'll see the top 30 and 30 women, but you never see the failures behind it. So I've fallen so many times. There's so many mistakes I've made, but how my way of thinking was always, how then do I better this thing, and how differently can I lead? Because now you find the way you lead someone who was in an older generation, like in example my parents, how they led then is not the same way I'm going to lead now. So also reading quite a bit, seeing also people who inspire, like the likes of Michelle, Amma, and just doing more and more around that, because I've gotten a lot of young women coming, okay, I want to be a director as soon as possible. And I'm like, you need to, I've gone through several, maybe say departments before I actually got into director, and they're like, no, I don't think I want. That's a couple of years, and I'm thinking, by the time I got here, it was 10 years later. But someone wants it at year 1, year 2, year 3.
It's
so
not possible.
It's definitely not possible. So I think it's just that slow nurturing way of, like the way you nurture a baby to the point of maturity. They learn.
So they start
fall.
from crawling,
Exactly.
you start walking, then you can run, then you can grow taller and become bigger.
Yes. So that hard work, that working hard, working smart, are the things that you have to be able to slowly find your way into the leadership. But one thing I normally tell people is find your best path. Don't use the common path for everyone. Because I think for me, if I look at the journey that I had, I came in as an engineer. I was put as health and safety head. I was put as quality assurers, but still heading engineering projects. I found myself as being in PMO. heading vice directors, PMO, so that is program management. So I'm doing PMO work, and then now in government, and then women in tech. So, but if I was to sit and look at someone who has a similar path as I do, no one does. But I still found myself in leadership. So I normally say pick the path that you feel is right, is comfortable, show your perfection in everything that you do. It always gives you a step ahead and an edge in terms of moving into the next level. And I believe people around you can also see that you're able to you're able to transform in the space that you're given, based on the skills that you have. So it's about being empowered more so that you're able to lead now on a higher platform like that.
Fantastic. And now you have spoken about getting to the leadership space, but now you're in the leadership space.
Yes.
How do we encourage and ensure that leadership supports other areas to actually grow? And what are you doing as a leader to support others to grow, and also to ensure that there is other young people who can fill your space eventually?
So one thing I normally say is that by the time you enter leadership space, you have to be able to know what you're bringing on the table. So what is that perfect skill? What is that thing that you're able to present? Because remember, when it comes to like organizations like us as private sector, it's the goals or the output of the organization will not say whether you're male or female.
No.
It's about the numbers that will be on the
what
table.
you have delivered.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that needs to be first very clear for you. What are you delivering to make sure that you bring the success of the organization? Number two is that you need to also pick out within the organization, as you're leading, some key people who especially are women that can be able to come up and slowly mentor them. So mentorship and coaching is very important around that. And also, you may not be an actual certified coach, but you can direct them to key coaches who end up building, molding, and just redirecting them. And even as you're going for some of these networking programs, you can be able to carry 2 or 3, especially the ones that you've identified have key talent. You bring them into that space, you help them connect, you help them expose themselves to leaders, even within government, within private sector institutions, and they're able to understand some of these spaces and what it takes to be a leader. Some of them are even, I normally give them a task and I tell them, okay, now I'm giving you this project to run fully, 100%.
Wow.
I want to see how you
do it,
do it as you would be doing it for, to make sure that you see some success, and no one is giving their input, whatever support. So you also want to see them in terms of, are they molding themselves to being better? Are they able to put themselves out? And that way now you end up now identifying and picking them. And then you end up becoming their sponsor on the table, where you recommend them when it comes to certain key items that,
key areas that they can perform.
Exactly. And they'll come in, they'll make their mistakes, and you still give them that chance. You have to also hit them hard. In terms of when the mistakes are there and they're not learning from it, but at the end of the day, they know very well they're molding to be someone better. Yes.
Just speaking from the leadership space and sponsoring, just speaking from what you're mentioning about nurturing other people to actually come to the leadership space, I'm very curious. What is that one book or quote or life lesson that has stayed with you throughout your journey, your value system? Yes.
So, okay, well, I've read a couple of books. Now I'm at The Diary of a CEO. It's an interesting book.
Yes.
But one of the things is that I picked out is failure is success. I think that's one of the things I found it as a very deep oxymoron.
Yes.
Where you're calling failure success.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, they try to narrate it in a way that all these CEOs, all these leaders, all these guys who have been there, they've fallen or failed so many times, but in the dark. But at the end of the day, they end up coming out success, which is what people now see in that space. So I think for me, that's my key mantra. That's the key thing that I I normally drive towards. I might be a bit of a biblical person, so of course
It's going to be biblical, religious, anchoring yourself in a supreme being.
But the best, I normally tell people, I'm actually reading the Bible as a book,
As a
type,
book.
the way,
Yeah.
and just trying to learn a lot. And most interestingly is you tend to see how the leadership aspects of people who were selected during that time was quite in a very interesting way in terms of the skilling, in terms of their talents, even the talents that you establish or you're given.
Yeah.
And so when I talk about failure, is that it goes back to the story of David, where he failed so many times as a shepherd.
Yes.
But of course, what happened?
Yes.
Success was ended up being seen on the battlefield. So I think that's one of the main things that drive a lot of that.
And just to bring the Christian aspects, when you look at Jesus' crucifixion, that was failure. Dying on the cross was an absolute failure.
Yes.
This person who has come to save and he's dying on the cross.
Exactly.
You're dead on the cross. Really, the world even went dark.
Yeah.
But now the success that came out of that. So basically, as you say, he redeemed the whole world and rose from the dead, as we believe.
Yes.
So you clearly see that there is that converse into the journey of doing things, of ensuring you put yourself out.
Correct.
It's amazing to see that. And just to take us to the one of the critical aspects of Beijing plus 30 was actually women in leadership.
Yes.
And women fitting in spaces of leadership. Be it in political leadership, in parliaments, be it in boardrooms, be it in at home, even just embracing their own leadership. Just moving from that silent strength to participation power. And looking at what you're doing. And also what you're charging forward. I would like you to speak a little bit of the aspects of women in leadership, a little bit further into that and seeing what we can be able to do.
Okay. I think also the support that needs to come in, because I've seen a lot of government support coming in terms of making sure that there's that visibility of leadership, and also the women taking up the next step, and now having, of course, women representatives in different counties. Also now having representatives also now moving forward in terms of if there's a leader, even going to Beijing, we have now actual women who are going in parliament now, it camping at the top of the discussion, and just even having advisors to even the presidential level who advocate for women.
Women rights.
Yes, the women rights, the women advisor. And those are some of the things that I feel we need to be able to do a bit more on it. Okay. So giving the support, and I love that also our leadership right now, to some extent, being from our head leader, is that we are trying to be able to have more and more representatives, be it in the executive, be it in the many other different areas, to have women being represented on the table, because they, again, I'll still bring back, there's a different perspective that they bring on the table, and has been able to give more and more fruit. And also just in the cultural sector, in the communities, because remember, we, as wherever we are, we all come from some community.
Yes.
And just making sure that also the male counterparts give support to the women leaders who are being fronted. So it's not just the traditional women who will be going, I don't know, they're the ones who are leading this part and all that. If they're able to be at the forefront and lead and put some of these areas, then why not? Why not be given that kind of support? And I think that's why Beijing, the Beijing Authority, of having representative to go speak more about how we need to transform in the different sectors, be it when it comes to, I know one of the key areas is peace and justice.
Yes.
Just bringing forth. And I love that even in our African communities, different countries, we are having presidents who are now women, who are leading,
Yes.
So I think we're in the right step. We just need to probably
Accelerate
move
it.
faster. Yeah. accelerate in terms of actioning the policies that are there, because we are having the policies in place, but they're not being actioned. And also, we're not having some of the people who are willing to take up the positions given the opportunity, because they're saying, oh, no, I think they can be able to still give someone else. Or it's very quick to still say, no, we cannot have the woman as our leader.
Yeah.
Those kind of things. So we're still not actioning some of the policies.
Yes.
And that is what we need to do.
Fantastic. Now, as we come to a close, you're on a global stage. What is that one message, that's one, or your closing message that you'd give to the women and girls and the men to build a whole of society? Yes.
Collaborate equals collaboration. I think for me, that will bring transformation in anything, because what's happening is that we're working a lot in silos. I'll come, I do this program, someone else does this, someone else. When you're trying to divide and hope that we can conquer, it's really not working for us. So we need to collaborate more. We need to bring the same voice. We need to be the actual people who can say, you know what, we want to transform this. Huawei is doing this, GAF is doing this. Can we collaborate to talk about the same voice? And I think through that, it will end up now having more and more women and girls having more confidence, where they can say, you know what, out of the collaboration of this kind of institutions, I was able to benefit and have a chance to even go to China, you know, or even be at the forefront, because this association or this particular program with its collaboration put me on a forefront, or it put me on a platform that I've never been on, you know, and they end up now speaking into that voice. So I think when we speak one voice, we walk one journey, for sure we'll be able to have a Tower of Babel coming up.
Oh, yes, 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 yes.
He is.
And indeed, thank you. Today, we've had the pleasure of hosting Maureen, the Director of Public Affairs at Huawei, a tech girl, a science girl, a woman who is currently in leadership.
And chair lady of Women in Technology.
And chair lady of Women in Technology. And her parting message is, we must collaborate, collaborate, collaborate. And that brings us to the call for actually this podcast. How do we collaborate? Share with us ways in which we can be able to collaborate more, to build more stages, to build more areas that can be able to advance women and girls. Thank you so much. I've been your host, Viridiana Wasike, Director Resource Mobilization at National Government Affirmative Action Fund.